we're looking at our manual, The Gunas of Nature, and the gunas are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. We have a quote here that all gunas create attachment and thus bind one's self to the ego. When one arises above the three gunas that originate in the body, one is freed from birth, old age, disease, and death, and attains enlightenment. Well, that's a pretty good promise.
Sounds good to me.
Who wants to sign up? So let's talk about these three gunas. They obviously seem to be pretty important in the Bhagavad Gita. Padampreet, do you want to talk about the different ones?
Sure. So the names of the gunas are sattva, rajas, and tamas. And I think it helps to understand what their function is. In the Bhagavad Gita specifically, we have to get an idea of how things are created, how creation happens. And the idea is that there is this unformed energy consciousness called Purusha, and it gives rise to a more specific creation that's formed called Prakriti. And the gunas are a part of Prakriti. They're what create everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything we would be able to sense or think about. So they create physical objects, they create our ideas of mind, and they create all of the subtle elements too. So one interpretation of guna is that it is a strand or a rope, meaning that it binds all of these things together so we can experience them. And another interpretation of it is that it's a quality. So sattva, rajas, and tamas, they are the three qualities or ropes that bind us to reality or existence. In that quote, that's what it's referring to, is like, once we're able to rise above these, and we can't actually rise above these physically, we need them. Once we're able to rise above these, we're beyond everything. So it's not those 4 or 5 specific things that you're transcending. You're transcending all of experienced reality. So that's even a bigger promise.
So it's kind of interesting because we are in spring here. So like, I'm so excited. I go out, I'm seeing little buds pop out of the garden. And so when you talked about the gunas of nature, I was thinking about, like, what I've learned is, like, we're trying to be in a sattvic state, or like a pure state, but that all those parts are necessary. So when I was thinking of tamas, which is the kind of lethargic state, and as compared to rajasic, which is like an energetic state, I was thinking about a little bulb in the ground, how it actually needs to have a hibernation period for it to bloom. Like, is that what we're actually thinking about with those different states, like how we need them all?
Yeah, that's a really important point. Like, we can't think of any of these gunas. As you said, tamas is often thought of as like heavy, inert, lethargic, dark, but we can't think of any of these as like good or bad or of different levels. Everything has some balance of these three. So usually in yoga and in the Bhagavad Gita, when we talk about the sattvic state, we're talking about that we want to lighten ourselves and move over to more subtle forms in order to understand how to transcend everything. But it doesn't mean one is good or one is bad. And your example of the bulb is really good, is that, it needs to be in the darkness, and it needs to be in hibernation. And it's also in the ground, which is, sort of like a heavy thing, but it also needs the air, which is a very light thing. And it needs the rajas, the heat of the sun. It needs the hot thing, the active thing, in order to be fully realize its true form that it's supposed to be on earth. But I think it's a really good point to remember that one is not negative, one is not bad. They're in different balances at different times for different purposes.
I think for me, that was a really big understanding. And I thought, wow, what a forgiving practice yoga is, knowing that we don't, we can have a dark side to us, or a lethargic side, or a less energetic side, but it's not associated with bad necessarily. We need those qualities within us in different proportions at different times. So I was quite relieved to find that out, because sometimes people have a projection of who they are, and we like to perceive ourselves as balanced or working towards balance, but recognizing that that doesn't negate the fact for the tamasic or the rajasic energy. It's a balancing of the two that are necessary, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, even at, let's say, just at the simple asana level of what you're talking about, even to make a movement. I mean, I'm a huge sports fan, so I always think of sports, but this is a yoga course. So even to make a movement, you have to have a still core or a grounded floor, like your feet have to be grounded in order to move smoothly in other parts of your body. Like in baseball, it's if you want to really hit a home run, you have to make sure you're really grounded in the feet and all the power comes out of the legs and into your arms, and then it's transferred through the bat to the ball. Similarly with yoga, is like all of that movement is capable of happening because you have that still grounded energy. So definitely everything has to be in its proper place in order for things to go the way they're supposed to.